Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Brain Muffin at the Movies. And Star Wars is still just on everybody's mind. I don't know why. The last movie's come out. I think it's streaming on Disney Plus, exclusively on Disney Plus, if I remember correctly. And who knows how well it's doing? I don't know, but it's interesting because this was, to me, it's like, okay, I'm closing this chapter. To me, it's just the original three. Rogue One is decent enough in many ways. It's hilarious. I laughed really hard throughout that whole movie, but it wasn't trying to be funny. It's just the way I reacted. But everybody's got their own opinions, and so I'm going to find out what Ben Travis here. This is on EmpireOnline.com. Star Wars: Why the Sequel Trilogy is my favorite era. Now I realize that many other members of the Fandom Menace are going to rip this person up, but I'm going to do my best to give them the benefit of the doubt and then see. I mean, they're poor. Yes, they're poorly written. The prequels are poorly written, and horridly acted. I'll never forget the sound of it. Set in the Leicester Square IMAX. The air was electric. The room buzzing with excited chatter. The lights went down at last. The projector fired up, and as a silvery Lucasfilm logo illuminated the screen, the audience positively erupted. This was how the sequel trilogy began, with thunderous applause. And that's true. People loved The Force Awakens. I didn't. Go see my video on it. I'll put a link right about here. The press screening of The Force Awakens in December 2015 was not like other press screenings. There was clapping, cheering, and whistling. Note-taking was scarce. Pretensions were left at the door. 2 hours. For 2 hours, the most cynical of audiences became kids again. It was truly a joyous experience, feeling the crowd sink into J.J. Abrams' vision. The initial relief in the opening minutes that it was, thank God, good, quickly giving way to the thrill that it was great. I didn't like it from the opening crawl. The opening crawl felt wrong. Luke Skywalker has vanished. From that point on, it was downhill for me. Okay, it was a slow downhill. It wasn't like it was a drop off, but it kept gaining more and more momentum, and just about fell asleep several times. I was very, very bored with that movie. And now, granted, I saw it on Christmas Eve day, the 24th of December. So, in the afternoon, I don't know, maybe 20 people in the theater. And more importantly, it was Star Wars, with a lonely dreamer stuck on a desert planet. Again, a galaxy's worth of weird and wonderful creatures brought to life with tactile puppetry, surprising familial revelations, and Han Solo and Chewbacca boarding the Millennium Falcon. The magic was there, coming off the back of the prequels, so mired in the tragedy of inevitability and bearing George Lucas's increasingly divisive digital sensibilities. The Force Awakens brought the joy back to Star Wars. The Sega reignited on the big screen so boldly, so confidently, so entertainingly, sure to thrill old fans and create a whole new generation of new ones. Nope. So let's keep going. I always loved the original Star Wars trilogy, growing up with films on DVD and ITV repeats, but okay, so this is a young person. But watching The Force Awakens unfold on the big screen was something else. It was a thrill of the unknown. So this sounds like this person's first time experience. The revelation that this generation Skywalker was not our new hero. What? Going in, nobody knew what Rey was, that Rey was the main character. Nor that the villainous Kylo Ren was Han and Leia's. Now, we did know that, but I could have sworn we knew Rey was the main character. The revelation that this generation's Skywalker was not our new hero and had succumbed to the dark side elicited audible gasps. Yeah, although that was a setup that Snoke gave away. He shouldn't have said your father, Han Solo. That should have been at the bridge. When Han said Ben, that's when he should have revealed, whether we knew who he was. Not before then. That would have been that should have produced a gas. To me, it was just so lame. Some accuse the Force Awakens of plumping for easy nostalgia, but it didn't feel that way when confronted with the brutal shock of Han Solo's death for the first time, cutting right to the operatic familiar tragedy at the heart of Star Wars. Completely foreshadowed. I mean, it was if just watch the background colors, you knew it was coming. That moment rung in my head for days. This person doesn't know anything about movies. Growing up, it was impossible not to know that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father, but a new trilogy kicking off with Han Solo's death at the hands of his own fallen son. I never saw that coming. Okay. You don't know Harrison Ford then. After The Force Awakens ended with that shot of Rey and Luke Skywalker on Ahch-To, my brain buzzed for 2 years imagining what would come next, okay? And it was something that the original trilogy never been able to give me. Okay, so wait a minute. Living with that anticipation. Well, of course, because all the movies were already out and the story was already known. With these stories reverberating in my head, it was just as wonderful as watching them unfold. Okay, so, which is true. I mean, I grew up with the original trilogy, so I did experience that. In fact, I experienced it with all three of the movies. Although the problem with the prequels is where it ends. So when it finally arrived, The Last Jedi proved worth the wait. Rian Johnson's film remains perhaps the most beautifully crafted. Oh God, not just visual. It's visually horrible. But on the Holdo maneuver looks wonderful. But on the story and character level too. Okay, how grand, mythical, and adventurous, playful. Whoa, it's none of those. It's everything Star Wars should be. Nope. I would agree that Star Wars needs to be grand, mythical in particular, adventurous and playful, but the Last Jedi is preachy. The Last Jedi is wagging its finger in the face of capitalists. It has that whole useless side quest. Every scene is a setup to revert expectations. It's a real punch in the gut to the entire fandom from Rian Johnson, who doesn't like Star Wars. From Snoke's throne room to the Holdo maneuver, to Luke's force projection facing down the First Order on Crate, which was dumb and stupid. The jaw-dropping action moments are compounded by character-driven choices. No, they're not character-driven. That's the problem. And not only that, the characters are different than they are in The Force Awakens. And Finn is even more of a caricature and a joke. You have Poe, who was this a good leader and good pilot, is all of a sudden, a blumbering idiot and insubordinate. Among it sits my favorite scene of the whole trilogy, Luke confronted by Yoda's Force Ghost, ruminating on the true value of the Jedi and the importance of failure. See, now here's the thing. And this is what I've noticed about a lot of people who like The Last Jedi. There are moments that are good. That actually is pretty good. The discussion with Luke and Rey in the Jedi Temple about, at the height of their power, the Jedi allowed Sidious to rise at the height of their hubris. Those are pulled from Greek mythology. Okay, those ideas, and that's good. But if you take the movie as a whole is horrible. But it does have its good moments. If you only hold on to those moments, you're going to get a skewed vision of what can happen. And this whole notion that anybody can be force sensitive, doesn't have to be a Skywalker. We had the prequels had thousands of Jedi. Okay, none of them whom were Skywalkers. So that is, if people believe that that's why they like it, then they probably weren't paying attention to the prequels. Okay, and not everybody can use the Force, but you don't have to be a Skywalker to use it. That conversation between Star Wars Old New remains one of the greatest elements of the sequel trilogy. Now, I will say that's probably true. The sequel trilogy is so bad that those just two scenes are probably the only thing good in the entire piece. They're legacy films. They are legacy films that interrogate. Good grief. Interrogate the meaning of legacy, from the quest to rediscover the heart of Star Wars and The Force Awakens. Search for Luke. Really? The heart of Star Wars is looking for somebody? I don't think so. To The Last Jedi, questioning the validity of the Jedi Order. The heart of Star Wars from the original trilogy is the hero's journey. And it's fairly complete in the first movie because they didn't know if there was ever going to be a sequel. You have the hero overcoming a first big obstacle. Then you have the Empire Strikes Back. You have the dark forces coming back. You have the hero meet lots of hardship, actually suffer some loss, in this case a hand, and then regroup, learn some more, get his confidence back, and then face his biggest fears. That does not happen at all in the new trilogy. So that's the heart of Star Wars. The hero's Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. That's the heart of Star Wars. That's what it hangs on. That is completely missing in the sequel trilogy. To the Last Jedi's questioning, okay, I already read that. The Rise of Skywalker's notion of family heritage and predestination, which is complete crap. Okay. Because Anakin was the chosen one, right? Created, and he fell to the dark side. So what is the predestination there? And the heritage, was always fairly strong strong in the original trilogy. Yes. And there's a lot of things. Lucas changed his mind of who Leia was and all that other stuff. Or even have him as his father. That I think that maybe was in there, but some of it is family lineage and some of it isn't. But this also goes back to Arthurian legends and things like that. Arthur is actually the son. In the lineage, doesn't know it. That's why he's able to pull the stone. This is why Thor's able to lift the hammer. All that kind of stuff. Although they have to show that they are worthy. It's a notion mirrored by the very films themselves. A generation who grew up with the original trilogy have already finally got to the part of the whole new adventure as it unfolded. Now, that is true. So this is a younger person. I guess they were too young for the prequels, or they don't remember the prequels. Although, again, the prequels told a nice story, but we knew where it had to end. It had to end with the fall of Anakin and the rise of Darth Vader. If the original trilogy was defined by its central villain as its hero, which it wasn't, if the original trilogy was as defined by its central vision as its hero, so too the sequel trilogy. The original trilogy was not defined by the central villain. It's the hero's journey. This is why you have essentially two villains in the first movie, through all of them. The Emperor is just in the background in the first one, but you have Darth Vader and Governor Tarkin, and then you have Darth Vader and the Emperor. Both going toward Luke, but Luke is, in many ways, Luke is the audience, especially in the first one, where he learns all this stuff happening. He's an unwitting participant, but not an unwilling participant, which is what Rey is in the Force Awakens. The answer was genius. You create a character who himself is consumed by the very idea of the living up to Vader. It's a turmoil illuminated by an Adam Driver's volatile performance. Across the trilogy, you see his torment, sort of. He's way too emo in the first one. The moments he so nearly turns back to the light before plunging tragically and inevitably further into darkness, which never happens. I don't know what moment he's talking about, unless he's about killing Han, but that was all a ruse. After killing Snoke and fighting back to back with Rey in The Last Jedi, it could all be over. They could live freely and allow the galaxy to live in peace. But Kylo Ren can't, even with no obstacles in his way. He remains drawn to the dark side, intent on bringing Rey with him. Yeah. This is to me, this was a big problem with The Rise of Skywalker. Is we don't really know where Kylo Ren is. Is he being consumed? Is he going to overthrow the Emperor? For its flaws in every story, The Rise of Skywalker plays out that push and pull of Rey and Kylo Ren's intertwined stories brilliantly. No, it doesn't. There's an increasingly dangerous feeling to their forced conversations. Nope. Rey is angry all the time, but while it's Ren that draws out Rey's force lightning and reveals her true parentage. Is it? I don't know exactly what he was trying to do. And he was a long way away, and all of a sudden he was like right next to her. Their conflict culminates in a furious lightsaber battle in the Star Wars wreckage in the heart of the raging sea, which seems to, it's almost like it's connected with Rey, because when she's angry, the waves get larger, and then when she's calmer, the waves disappear, or are much they're not crashing over everything. Rey, without hesitation, when given the chance, and resurrecting him. So she strikes Kylo Ren. Now there is an argument here as to what gets Rey's attention. Is it Does Leia die trying to reach her son one last time, or does Leia die because she stabs Ben while they're connected, and then she feels Leia, redeemed by love and the promise that it wasn't too late to come back to the light. Made peace with the memory of his father. I teared up in the cinema. Really, this whole moment, it tries to be touching, but go out and watch Adam Driver in, was it Marriage? Whatever that, I forget the name of that movie. He's much better in that. with Scarlett Johansson. It was Leia's final act to call out to Rey, giving him that crucial moment of pause. Felt like a gorgeous tribute. Just, okay, whatever. Fine. This person is completely enamored by the new movies. That's all I can say. It's their Star Wars. It's of their time. And at the heart of the trilogy is Rey, our hero, the girl from nowhere with nothing, who obviously has everything. Yeah, it's the Mary Sue from nowhere. She has everything given to her. 2 lightsabers, 2 ships. I guess technically 2. Well, no. See, BB-8 is supposed to be Poe Dameron's. So I don't know, but I think is it BB-8 or R2 that's with her at the end? I don't even remember anymore. And she goes back and takes the Skywalker Ranch, as it were. Scavenger who picks the scraps from the old war, who like Luke before her gazes up at the sky and dreams of something bigger. Yeah. In the opening, The Force Awakens, she sits in the desert at the foot of a fallen AT-AT, placing an old rebel helmet on her head as she eats her 1/2 portion. By the climax of Rise of Skywalker, she's leading the rebellion. And Luke's old X-Wing, wearing his helmet, of course, into battle, ready to face her destiny in a spine-tingling arc. Nope. It is boring as crap, and it is so paint by numbers. That's part of the problem. You can see what's coming for, the sequel trilogy really is about Rey's search for her identity, which she never finds. Okay? The girl from Jakku, desperate to discover who she is and what makes her special. She never found out. And through her lineage would be ultimate extraordinary. The answer, yeah, but why weren't her parents extraordinary with the Force? Why didn't her parents show any of this? This is the problem, is there's a big gap. Anakin, we understood why he was strong, because he was created by the Emperor, okay? Through the Force, into Shmi, and then his offspring are strong on the Force as a result. We don't get any concrete information about her parents enough to understand why the Force passes through. And when we look at the prequels, the Skywalker and now I guess the Palpatine, and really Palpatine's on both of these, to me it makes sense that Anakin's children are strong on the Force because he was created through the Force. But we don't get a sense from any other Jedi or anyone else, although they're kind of doing this with the Mandalorian, that there's any passing of that ability on to offspring. And again, this is the problem, is this is so unplanned. And you can watch 7, you can watch 9, and you don't even have to watch 8 at all, because so much stuff is either redone or rehashed that 8's completely useless. Rey Skywalker, okay, so why? Saves the fledgling resistance, trains under Leia, brings Kylo Ren back to the light. Did she? Defeats the Emperor, or did he choose love? What little there was so little chemistry between those two. Even the actors themselves, it was very, very awkward. Now, there was far more chemistry between her and, now it was angry back and forth. They argued like an old married couple, but her and Poe Dameron, there was far more chemistry. And with Finn and Poe, there was more, that could have been a good buddy movie. Rey's story remains the brightest light in the trio of films, bursting with joy. Whoa, gosh. And this thing too, I wish we had a wider shot if that was her staff the whole time. Now that would have been something that would have made sense if she would have been staring at her staff, and maybe pulled that part off, or just spun this, because this is the part that ignites it, and it was a lightsaber the whole time. Or she senses something, takes the power cell, if you will, from Leia's lightsaber and puts it in here. That would have made more sense. The sequel trilogy has an incredible... it gave us a very bland black character who was a stereotypical, pining for white woman and space janitor. You can't get any more stereotypical than that. I still hold that if Rey would have already been training, maybe in hiding, as a Jedi, Kylo Ren's out there, and it is Finn whose force is awakened, and she and Kylo go back and forth trying to pull Finn to their side. It would have been a much better trilogy, and it wouldn't have been so cookie cutter copy paste from the original. And Poe Dameron biting his lip, it gave us Yeah, and toys that do not sell. Toys that do not, and they are finally admitting they do not sell. The toy makers are finally, Sleeping Giant finally admitted this past week they don't sell. I always loved the original trilogy. Without it, there would be no, of course. I enjoy the prequel trilogy, flaws and all, okay, but it was the sequel trilogy, watching it unfold, believing completely in this new generation of heroes that we'll never see again. That really truly made me feel the force. These two don't ever want to have anything to do with Star Wars again. I don't think we're going to see Daisy Ridley ever do any Star Wars ever again. And people from the original, Anthony Daniels, basically, his facial expression says it all. And that he apparently fell asleep watching it the first time. So, all right, Ben, I kind of feel for you. And he's welcome to his opinion. You gotta really, there's so much headcanon in this article, so many things that are not actually in the movies. Some of it is in the books, some of it is in the comic books, and well, heck, we even had some of the stuff that came out on Overwatch. So, it's not the hero's journey. Rey is powerful from the start. Never really struggles, never loses anything. People like her instantly. Zori Bliss should have shot her when she lowered her lightsaber. It's a horrible storytelling, very bad, very shallow characters that are easily forgettable, and probably has killed Star Wars as a sequel based, as a trilogy based, definitely as a series of movies. We may get some more. There's talk of, they've talked about a Boba Fett movie, but although that's, I think, gone. Still talk about an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. I think we're just going to get one-offs here and there. It's going to be like that. The Mandalorian might help resurrect it, but this really killed everything. The Last Jedi was probably the biggest problem. And then Rise of Skywalker. The Last Jedi killed it. In the Rise of Skywalker, they threw the dirt on it. They buried it. So it's done and done. Maybe Ben will understand someday exactly what Star Wars was really about, but I'm guessing he only thinks it's pew pew and lasers and Jedis, which it is far more than that. Nothing in the sequel trilogy is based on any kind of mythology. It doesn't stick. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't pull on ideas and concepts that are thousands of years old, like the originals. Yes, Kurosawa and others, but ultimately it's Joseph Campbell's hero's journey that happens in the original, and it doesn't happen very well at all in the sequel trilogy. That's why I think Finn's hero's journey as to which way he's going to go, being pulled by Kylo Ren and Rey, would have been, I think, a much better and a new story, a new telling of the hero's journey that's not so set in stone. It's not so following the original trilogy like they tried to do. And I think it would have been great. I think it would have been great. All right. Well, what do you think of Ben's concepts? Do whatever in the comments. I know some people will be civil and some people will not. I'm sure Jeremy and others will really just go randy. I just don't have any energy left anymore to just rant. And, this person likes poor storytelling. That's all I can say. All right. Thank you very much, and goodbye.